All right, welcome to another episode of Asset Coach and Tax Strategist. I appreciate you being here. If you're a subscriber, thank you so much for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Join us. If you like our content, give us a thumbs up. If you have any comments to make, go ahead and add some comments down below. So today's episode, we're going to talk about Robert Kiyosaki. And if you've been a follower of mine and you've watched anything, read my book, Economic Termites or Farming Assets, you'll know that one of the core root causes for me being here today, 2 decades later plus, is due to Robert Kiyosaki's book, Cash Flow Quadrant. Read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and just thoroughly enjoyed his commentary on the difference between Rich Dad and Poor Dad. Not that one was better than the other, just the mindset. And that's the one thing that I want to try to get across in all my episodes is the mindset. That's what we're talking about. It's not about building wealth. It's not about reducing taxes. It's not about fighting those economic termites. It's about the mindset to do so. Change the mind, change your world, change the world. Okay. And so today I want to talk about Robert Kiyosaki. And I don't know if you're following Robert Kiyosaki at all or not, but I do. I enjoy watching Robert Kiyosaki. I enjoy listening to him and kind of going through his commentary. He's very, very consistent. And so one of the things I wanted to talk about was one of his posts that he said was, hey, if I was 20 years again, if I was 20 years old again, what would I do? Well, here's how he would change everything. First thing, he would not go look for a high-paying job. Now, one of the things he does talk about is he did go to Xerox. He did go into sales, learn how to work with people, and basically speak publicly. So first thing he said, I wouldn't look for a high-paying job. He'd get a job only long enough to learn a specific skill, like going to Xerox to learn sales and the ability to have a conversation and communicate. Now, that's at the time, Xerox had one of the best training programs for sales in that arena. The second thing is he'd look to learn sales, accounting, and how business really operates. So understanding the mathematics, the aspect of going out and getting business, accounting for that business, and how the cash flow and the decisions that you need to make mindset in a business and how that operates. It's not going to be for, he said, not for status, not for comfort, but those skills really decide who works for money and who doesn't. You need to understand that skill. Now, the third thing he said is he wouldn't chase money early. He'd rather chase education. Now, here's the thing that he means by education, a skill. You need to skill, not go to a college and get a degree unless that skill is teaching you or that degree is teaching you a skill. Such, for example, I work with a lot of physicians, people with high degrees. That was a skill. You had to go through the college ranks, go through medical school or whatever high skilled school, continuing education, graduate education to get that particular skill. And then what happens? Once you have that skill, the baseline, then you go and actually practice that skill. And that's where the real additional education, real world education kicks in. Now, money flows skill. This is one of the things he talks about is that people who chase money without skills, really they stay dependent. They're not they're looking for fish. They're not learning how to fish, so to speak. That's really important as we go through this process of building a business, understanding a business. The mindset, again, is what we're talking about. Now, the fourth thing is he would avoid specializing too early. This is what really happens to a lot of us. We go to medical school, and this is understandable because medical school takes so much time. But what about an attorney or a CPA, right? Or you become specialized in a particular area, you kind of get pigeonholed. My sister-in-law went to law school and she did some of her internship, some of her experience was in construction defect litigation. Well, she's not a litigator. In fact, you put her in a courtroom, she wilts. She'd be the first one to tell you, stresses her out. But because she got her law degree and she had that experience, she was all of a sudden pigeonholed into this because that was the experience. She didn't know that, right? She was just going and getting experience and getting paid, right? Because she was paying for law school herself. Now, the fifth thing is I'd learned how to read financial statements. This is one of the things he says. This is so important, understanding the flow of cash, the financial statements of a business. These financial statements are structured specifically, but each of the statements, the cash flow statement, the profit and loss statement, and the balance sheet all speak to us as a business owner specifically and differently. So cash flow, debt, taxes, assets, liabilities, really understanding those five things. Cash flow is the key to everything. But how do I utilize debt and understand debt? How do I manage taxes, lower taxes? What kind of assets do I want? And in that debt or liabilities, how do I allow the assets to increase the cash flow but reduce the taxes? Those things intertwine. Okay, very, very important. But there's a mindset and the skill of understanding this, what this looks like. And depending on what type of assets, one of the things you don't want to specialize into a particular asset. You do want to do what the wealthy do, and you want to have a diversified portfolio. The funny thing is, financial advisors say, oh, a diversified portfolio is owning different companies in equities. Well, you're not diversified. You're in equities. That's the asset you have. You may have different types of equities, but you're in equities. Different assets in different asset classes, and understanding how those work based on how the tax code communicates that is such a key. And that's how you end up learning how to lower your tax liability. Number six is he wouldn't buy a house to live in. He'd buy the asset to produce cash flow first. So one of the things Robert Kiyosaki talks about, and he brings us up in one of his stories about this red Porsche that was like his dream Porsche. I don't remember which one it was, but anyways, he loved it. And this was after him and Kim had already built some wealth and some experience and lessons and learned. And a buddy of his called and said, "I found it." He's like, "Found what?" He's like, "Your Porsche." And so Robert goes down there and, he melts, right? He's drooling all over himself and he's just so excited. So he calls Kim, his wife, and she's like, "This is awesome, Robert. Oh, I'm so excited for you. What asset are you going to buy to pay for it?" She was right, but his emotions and just got the better of him, right? And that's like us, right? That's what we do. We all do this. And so understanding that discipline of understanding that assets, if you want something, buy an asset to pay for that. One of the things I'm teaching my kids to do is understanding, hey, we need to give back to our church. We need to tithe. We need to give back to society in our time and our finances and our talents. And as we go through this, what's this look like? But wouldn't it make sense for us to buy a particular asset that would help cash flow to be able to give to that particular charity or church or whatever that cause is that you're giving money to? So understanding the assets to create cash flow first, then be able to utilize those funds. Number 7 was I'd keep my expenses low to protect my freedom. And it's so easy for all of us, our expenses, our lifestyle, our spending. You can get to your goals quicker if you spend less money. Now, eating rice and beans for 10 years obviously doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? There has to be some sort of balance and health and spirituality within your business and your building your wealth. But understanding to control expenses, you control expenses personally, you control expenses in your business and vice versa. This is one of the things I've learned. I didn't grow up with a lot of money, and I didn't learn necessarily to control expenses. And I would work, and I've been working since junior high. I'd earn my own money and I'd spend it. And it really has taken me a long time to understand that I'm not a junior hire anymore. I'm not making to spend. And we got to understand how to look at this and how to purchase and how to utilize your expenses to be able to help you get to that freedom point, or get to that point of where you want to accumulate wealth, or your cash flow continues to grow no matter what your expense line looks like. That's really important. Number 8 is that he said he'd start investing small and early. And the reason being is a lot of it, Robert talks about, is education. That's right. Starting to invest small, get educated, understand, make mistakes on small things. So when you go to big things, you don't make those mistakes, because those mistakes become more costly, even though it's a simple mistake. It's a simple mistake on something small, a simple mistake that's on something big. There's a big discrepancy in that. And so understanding that is really, really important. And understanding that investing in the different asset categories, such as real estate, business, hard assets, really not paper savings and promises, things that are tangible. Okay, they're really, really important. Number 9 is he said he'd fail fast and learn fast, and this is so important. This is not about failure. This is about decisions, making decisions, using your mindset to be able to make a decision and do it, commit to it, learn from it. And if it doesn't work out, learn from it. If it works out, learn from it. Always make a decision. And the lack of a decision is also a decision. So don't get paralyzed in the details. Sometimes those details are actually a shiny object. They're a squirrel, when the reality is what you need to focus on is the decision to actually get into that particular asset, get into that next thing that you're deciding on. That's so important. And one of the things he says is failure is tuition. That's the paying of education, right? And then the number 10 thing is he'd spend time with people who think differently about money. Comfort is expensive. Growth isn't. So I see this so much. People that think about real estate. And so everybody they spend time with, anything they read and everything they do is about real estate. And that's not wrong, but those people still come to us and say they have a tax problem. Okay. And that's because we're working with physicians. And so I understand the physical hard asset of real estate, but the difference is that they're not getting the tax benefits per se from the real estate that they are because of how they're focusing. But if they were to focus in other areas and structure it differently, and like how we help our members structure the planning based on how the IRS lays out the groundwork, the game plan, it says, the IRS says, hey, do this. The legal system says, do this. And if you follow that, then you just throw the assets into that system, that formalization, and it yields out the outcome you want. Okay. But it's a decision. It's a mindset. It's doing that, but thinking about things differently, asking that question, being humble enough to not know the answers, and be able to be a student into what you're trying to learn. And what are you trying to do? You're a student of yourself. You're trying to improve yourself so you can be better at doing those things that you want to do. Okay. That's what success is about. And so you need to have people that think differently about certain aspects of what you're trying to accomplish. Okay. Not this devil's advocate. They just think differently. They're creative differently. They have different thoughts and ideas. So that's really important. And so that's something that I really kind of want to allow you to understand and kind of flow with yourself, is understanding as you go through this process is really focusing on the steps. What's your plan? How are you going to execute your plan? Now, a lot of times, and I love this book. This wasn't Robert Kiyosaki's book, but this was Dr. Benjamin Hardy wrote a book, Who Not How. A lot of times, we don't necessarily need to become an expert in something. We need to learn about something and find somebody on your team. Robert Kiyosaki talks about this all the time. And there are no self-made millionaires. It doesn't happen. What happens is that you make a decision, you start a business, and other people help in that process. Okay. And that's really what this means, is that understanding, okay, if this is not my area of expertise, if I'm I'm a little weaker in this area, but somebody else is really strong in this area, great, partner with them. Because you may be strong in an area that they're weak. And now together you're better and you're able to accomplish those goals in a much more expedient way than you would have trying to learn it yourself and go through all this hard knocks. Robert Kiyosaki does not say you need to do everything by yourself. These are things he said that how he would learn. but he didn't say he would do all this stuff by himself. Okay. So this is a lesson that we need to understand and absorb in ourselves and be able to project into the action. So build out a plan. What's that look like? Look at your team. So this is what we're trying to do with our members, is be the experts where they're not, where they want to be at. And we partner up. We work together in getting to those things. And then we use people and partners in our arena to help our members, to help us, to for all of us collectively to get to where we want to get to. Okay. So anyways, thanks so much for subscribing. If you are a subscriber, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, if you like our content, give us a thumbs up. Please add a comment down below. Feel free to share us with your friends, family, and colleagues. We appreciate your time. Go make it a great day.